While you were watching something else yesterday, maybe you were watching a ho-hum Lakers performance against Denver. LeBron did go over 24.5, though, by the hook.
Maybe you were watching a Knicks game, and maybe you weren't invited to a Knicks game.
That also
could have
true.
happened,
So while you're watching that, the Dodgers report date is today, and with plenty of aplomb, plenty of fanfare, and a lot of cameras rolling, some of the new Dodger stars arrived at Camelback Ranch, and yeah, most of the team had already been there. Today, the official report day for the Dodgers pitchers and catchers. There is so much excitement around this brand. There are so many ridiculous expectations for wins totals around this brand. So what BetMGM says, if you want to get a piece of a futures win total for the Dodgers, an almost inconceivable 104 is what you'd need to get to. But when you straw poll most baseball people, you look at the schedule, you look at the rest of the National League, and this team specifically, 104 seems somehow reasonable.
I'm not going to be one of those people, though. I think that is a huge number, and especially the way they're going to start this season. When you start this early, there's going to be a break of something, 3-4 days in there before we pick up again.
Yeah.
All the fanfare and all the stuff that's going to go on with the opening days, if you will. What are they going to do? 4 opening day ceremonies at different times this course of the year?
They'll have at least 3.
Yeah, and it's possible there might be a 4th in there. And if you look at that, I don't think anything disrupts your rhythm or your timing or that routine anything more when you're doing those things.
Yeah.
You get announced, you're in that ballpark, it's opening day for them. You go somewhere else, it's opening day for them. It's going to be so much to start the year. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get going. So I think that 104, huge number.
Well, the start times themselves are going to be interesting, too, because, you know, you get the body clock issue coming back from Korea. You come back, and a lot of those opening day ceremonies are, I don't know, 3 p.m. Eastern, odd start times. We do know that there's so much excitement around this brand for so many obvious reasons. Let's roll the lineup for you. Take a look at the starting lineup. And it's so much different than what they ended the season with in disappointing fashion in the division series. You add Ohtani at DH. That's the big add. Teoscar Hernandez comes over. Gavin Lux is healthy. Manny Margot comes over in the trade that brings them another staff ace. And this group looks about as bulletproof as you could be 1 through 9.
This is going to be a conversation we have during the year. Is that lineup better than the Braves? Because the Braves lineup, we posted it up there the other day, and I'm looking at that, and I'm going, oof, that's pretty good. And I think this is going to be a situation where do you need to get used to your neighbor type thing? And I still think that 104 is a huge number. Now, with that said, I wouldn't be shocked if they came out of the gates 11-1 either, because the talent is going to speak. But we talked about this all week, Maddie. Come October, they've got to have the pitching staff buttoned up. It's got to be better than it's been in the past few years because they don't want to run into Arizona again or a team like Arizona and watch what happened to them last year. Their offensive talent's going to speak.
Well, Glasnow, Yamamoto, they've got the injured guys, Walker Buehler and Kershaw, who return. We'll hear from Kershaw in a moment. There are, I guess if you're going to question any part of their 26-man roster, it would be health and contributions from the starting staff. But again, this is a team that's building for the tournament. They want to be right on October 1st. They don't want the disappointments of 2022 and 2023 to strike again. But let's look into the schedule, because you mentioned how in April there's going to be a little challenge. I would say this, that 5 of their first 7 series in April are at home. It's as soft a landing coming back from Korea as you could imagine. This is where it gets interesting at the end of the month. They've got 3 in D.C., they've got Toronto, and then to Arizona. So Toronto to Arizona, not much fun, obviously. And then they come back for the Braves after a day off. That will be a fascinating 3-game series.
And wasn't that the series towards the end of the year, Atlanta in L.A., and Atlanta went out there and just smacked them? But once again, it goes to Atlanta got beat by a hot Philadelphia team in the postseason.
Yeah.
Dodgers got beat by a hot Arizona team that was clicking.
Right.
So sometimes the chalk, as you like to call them, it doesn't always pan out for those guys in a short series, and I get that, but Dodgers are going to be good. That's an understatement. How do they match up in October when that time comes?
Here's some other notable regular season series. It's always fun when the Dodgers and Padres collide, even though less is expected from San Diego this year than last year at this time of the season. They've got the Yankees in early June. They've got the Phillies. We should have distinguished, well, these are all road series.
Right.
At the Yankees, at the Phillies, at that monster of a ballpark. People in Houston still have a little angst towards the Dodgers from 2017.
And vice versa.
Right. They play at Anaheim in September, so the Ohtani return to Angel Stadium won't happen until the final month of the regular season, and then they're at Atlanta for what everybody thinks is an NLCS preview later on that month. Some fascinating schedule stretches for them. Back to Clayton Kershaw. So he re-signs the one-year deal with a player option for a second year that could keep him as a Dodger through the 2025 season. I think regardless, the Dodgers are thinking there's going to be no alternate destination for Clayton. He'll begin and end as a Dodger. If he wants to pitch again after this year, it'll be in Dodger blue. Clayton met the media. He arrived early. Pitchers and catchers didn't have to be there until today. Clayton arrived early and had this to say.
Well, yeah, I went home and, the season was obviously the way it ended, especially, for our team and for me personally, it wasn't fun at all. So, a lot of doubts, a lot of different things, and didn't want to go out that way. So I think that was ultimately how I came to it. And then once we started gathering more information and realizing that surgery is probably the best option, that, gave me a little bit of clarity with everything. And I felt wanted, even though I'm kind of damaged goods right now, and just decided to come back. I hate to say a timetable, because if I go below it or beyond it, it's not good. But I would say July-ish, August-ish, somewhere in there. I don't know. This off-season's been pretty amazing to watch, honestly. The talent is probably the best I've ever been a part of, and so I'm hopeful that I can be a part of it too.
Well, Clayton Kershaw did not want that division series loss against the Diamondbacks, one in which he couldn't complete an inning, to be his last postcard in Major League Baseball. He wants to pitch again, and when you look at the body of work last year, he amassed a 2.46 ERA in just over 130 innings. A great, not good, a great regular season for Clayton until the injuries at the end of the year cost him, or injury. So if you add the rehabbing Buehler and Kershaw to the existing group, which plugged in Yamamoto and Glasnow, all the questions will be answered if those guys are right.
Right. But you put another one in there, if those guys are right. Look, Clayton Kershaw, when he just said, okay, July-ish, August-ish, I'm not going to hold, myself to that. We're going to be right to go out there. So if it's August, it's basically August and September. So say August 1, 4 starts, 5 starts maybe, September the same, 4 or 5 starts in that mix. So is he gearing up for 10 starts? And when you put that board up and you showed those numbers of what he was still able to do last year in limited action, it's good. So the speculation game for me right now, with that option that he has, right, at the end of the year, if you want to pitch, you can come back and pitch for us. What happens if he goes 8, 9, 10 flawless starts, goes into the postseason, they win the World Series, he can ride off into the sunset, right? That would be a possible scenario in that mix. But if he's gearing up and he's right, he's still got it in him to be really good. And he said, it didn't work out for us last year as a team and me personally, and that bothered me, so I decided to come back. I wonder if he goes in 10 starts and goes postseason, he's lights out and they win it, if he just doesn't take it to the house.
It's a great question. There were people that were thinking that might have been the case this year because of the way the season ended. He is way too competitive, way too good to let that be the last image people had of him on the mound. I think that fueled him and motivated him to come back and do it again. Also, he looks at all the star power around him and thinks maybe a second ring is in his future, too.
Second and third, if he picks up his own option.
Right.